been talking. All right, hey, we're here now. We were just talking for like 10 minutes straight, and
Whole time we thought we were live.
we thought the stream was going. We're like, hey, where are the
That
comments?
is
We were just like,
embarrassing.
I know.
Oh my god.
We were just spitballing, and we were
Hey,
like,
my-
oh, yeah.
My dude Hudson's here. What's up, Hudson? I just saw his comment. He said, "Let's rock and roll." This whole time, that's embarrassing.
Dude, I was like, where are the comments at? I was like, there are no questions here. And we were just talking, and we were like creating. Now I see it on the screen. Okay.
Wow.
We've just been talking about like whatever. Like we're like, okay, there are no questions here. We're just gonna create a conversation topic here.
Yeah.
We've just been talking.
That's funny. What's up, Colin? How you doing, Colin?
Wow.
Jacob, there you are.
Wow. Sorry about that, guys. Now it looks like 10 minutes late to start the stream here.
That's funny. Listen, this is another story, you know. Another story.
I remember I was like, why are there only like 5 viewers here? And then I was like, why are there no comments? Why is nobody responding to like?
I saw comments, but I thought those comments were of like,
yeah.
I know those are just people kind of waiting around. Hello, our friend Arana Brazil. Hello, how we doing?
Dude, Jacob texted me. He's like, "Are you good?" And I thought I was doing something when we were talking. I was like,
they could really save that because that would have been so like that would have been so awkward.
Well, anyways, we're here now. Hello everybody. This is the first of the creator Q&As that I'll be doing. Like I mentioned in my community post, something that I want to do with my platform moving forward is start kind of putting a spotlight on other creators in the community, whether it be filmmakers, whether it be like painters or editors or composers, musically, anything like that. I know Xavier does music. You mentioned that to me when we talked the other day. So he's not only a director, he's also an actor, and he's also in the music industry. He's really good at all that.
Yet.
Not yet. We're working on it, and super
We're
talented.
working on it.
But I have the trailer here for We Are Spidey. I don't really know how to play it here. I'm gonna just wing it and hope it works. We'll go ahead and see. It says the file's too big, so I guess we won't be able to play it.
Okay, all good. You're gonna have to watch the trailer on your own time, guys.
Yeah, you guys will have to go watch it on your own time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're here to talk about We Are Spidey, here to talk about Lotus, talk about being creators, everything like that. So if you want to go ahead and tell people kind of what your project is about, including Spidey NYC, the first project that you did, and everything after that, if you want to kind of go in depth.
Of course. So We Are Spidey is a sequel series to my previous work, which is Spidey NYC. And what I'm tackling here is, again, the same character from the previous project, and he is now dealing with imposter syndrome. And his whole conflict is whereas NYC, he was like one of a few superpowered beings in New York, at least. So he's able to kind of steamroll any guy he goes up against, regardless if he can fight or not. He has powers, he has super strength. Isaiah, what's up, man? He has powers regardless. So he's able to kind of just do whatever he wants, kind of reign supreme. But then a year later, we go in to We Are Spidey. A lot of superpowered beings have kind of come out of nowhere, and they become too much for my character, which is a variant of Peter Parker, if it wasn't clear. I'm not another Miles. I'm a variant of Peter Parker. Miles is a different character, different characters, I should say. So I'm dealing with that imposter syndrome within the project, and because I've been humiliated, I've been embarrassed in front of the people in New York, so they're losing faith in me, basically. I've become a meme, if you will. And so during the project, I'm not going to spoil how he's sent to a different universe, the main Marvel continuity, which we're calling Earth Prime in We Are Spidey, and he meets the classic version of Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and he sees these guys, and he's like, "Y'all make this look good. Y'all. I'm out here looking goofy, and y'all look like y'all are just doing this with ease." And that adds on to his imposter syndrome, and he deals with that like throughout the series, and with the help of like the other two Spider-Men, as well as his MJ, their MJ, and other characters around him, he realizes over time why he's worthy of being a hero, why he is exactly what New York needs, and the whole idea about Spidey NYC as a concept, because We Are Spidey falls under the entire concept of Spidey NYC. I wanted to create a version of the Marvel Universe that was way more realistic than 616 or the Ultimate Universe. The way I think about it is like the Earth Prime Marvel, like that's like expectation and what's ideal, and the NYC universe is reality, what it actually would be like. So if I were to have She-Hulk pop up in the NYC universe, she probably wouldn't be as hot as she is in 616 or Earth Prime. She would probably be a lot more grotesque. But that's just one example. I'm not going to give away anything else, but that's kind of like what I'm going for, and giving it that more realistic baseline. It allows for a lot more down earth, very grounded interactions, because for example, like if you go into like the New York in the NYC universe, you're gonna you go into Central Park of the NYC universe, it's gonna smell like horse shit, as it does in real life, because I'm near Central Park almost every day, and it smells bad, and and on that same token, you're gonna see probably like a couple like crackheads out and about,
Yeah, and you mentioned that yours is a little bit more in line with like Daredevil, not in terms of maybe the tone, but in the approach to New York. You kind of you more realistic idea of what New York really is.
Yeah, and it's like again, like that's echoed in like again how the environment's portrayed. It's echoed in the casting, because I have a very diverse cast. I always like to push diversity in every project that I do, and I take pride in that. And if anyone has a problem with that, then that's on you. That's not
I was going to make a point that when it comes to fan films, there's a different responsibility than it would be for a studio film, right? A studio film kind of has a responsibility to accurately reflect the comics or the source material to an audience, because the studio version of Spider-Man is what people think of when they think of Spider-Man, right? That the studio version is Spider-Man, to the world. But fan films have more freedom to kind of do your version of the character exactly as you want it. There are no studio mandates. There aren't any producers telling you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. Everybody's able to go ahead and do exactly what they want. There's not a pressure of creating for an audience as much as there is for a studio film, because we're not making any money. We're making it out of passion because we want to see it. We want it to be a reality. So that's why I think fan films are so important, and they're so distinct from studio films.
Exactly. I agree. And look, I've loved every version of Spider-Man, and I've loved like most of the movies and what have you. But I definitely do. Yeah, you're right. There is a responsibility for the studio to have the definitive version of the character in the movies. Although, like if and this is wishful thinking, if Spidey NYC was to ever get into like the mainstream, I feel like it would be well at home in like a Spider-Verse movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he was like interacted, like was like in the pantheon of like spider people that you see in all these Spider-Verse crossovers, like rallying behind the main continuity, Peter Parker. I feel like that's where he'd be most at home, you know. And like if I ever get to that point, then I'd be very grateful. I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
I can rest easy.
Yeah, and our films are so different from each other, and our interpretations of Spider-Man are so different from each other. You know, I've always been, you know, as on the record, very grounded when it comes to Spider-Man. You know, I've never been, you know, wanting to go into the multiverse or go into space and stuff like that. I like Spider-Man being, you know, close to the ground and being a more grounded character overall. But over the years, what I've come to understand is that what matters is how Spider-Man impacts people individually, right? Spider-Man's going to impact me in a certain way. He's going to impact you in a certain way, right? So there's no right version to do Spider-Man, you know, for a character that's been done for, you know, 50, 60 years. Everybody's going to take something different from him. So I obviously have a very distinct interpretation of Spider-Man, a very distinct way I like to see the character, as many have seen. But there are other interpretations of the character that are so wildly different, you know, and they're all equally as valid. And that's what I've come to realize over the years from being a teenager going my version or no version up to now, where it's like there is no definitive Spider-Man, you know?
Right.
So, someone said, here's a comment here. Andrew's the best Spider-Man for me because he felt so real. Mark Webb took the character too seriously and always love him for it. What is your take on Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man?
Fantastic. I think he's great. You know, each of them, Toby, Tom, and Andrew, they all are great in their own way. Even though I like to joke around and say Tom Holland's like my arch enemy, you know. Listen, he's dating the girl I always wanted. You know, I understand this is a me problem. Like my beef with Tom Holland is completely one-sided.
Yeah, you got to get that sorted out.
Yeah, and I accept that. All right. So, but yeah, Andrew's fantastic. They're all fantastic. What I love about Andrew, is that he's definitely the most down to earth, most realistic. No. Is he my favorite out of the three? No, Toby is. Toby's my favorite. You know, that's just I'm biased now. And nostalgia plays a huge role. I think he has the best stories. Toby has like the best stories out of all three.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Toby's like the most faithful adaptation of the classic Spider-Man comics. You know, like you take 70s Spider-Man and you put him into a modern movie, you know, you're going to get Toby Spider-Man. Like that's the 70s Spider-Man brought to live action, you know, pretty purely.
Sure. I guess he had the best movies, best directing, best stories, all that stuff. You know? Yeah. You're saying?
I mean, I think with Andrew's movies, I think the tone that Mark Webb was going for, specifically with the first one, might be my ideal tone for Spider-Man. You know, I love the tone of the Raimi movies, and that's always going to be up there. But I mentioned a lot of times before the tone and the atmosphere of the first Amazing Spider-Man with James Horner's score. You know, it feels very kind of peculiar and isolated and then lonely, you know.
More intimate.
More intimate. You know, it's like it's a very. I always love that tone. I was a little bit disappointed when the second movie kind of moved more towards an MCU type tone. You know, because the second one's a lot more lighthearted. You know, it still deals with Gwen's death and there's still dark moments, but the movie definitely. I mean, I think it'd be undeniable that the second one feels different from the first one.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm not a huge fan of the second one. I mean, there's things about it that I'm a fan of, but overall, you know, it's probably my least favorite Spider-Man movie out of all of them. Not counting the Venoms and the Morbius and stuff like that. I saw Jacob had a very good question here. How much of your version is inspired by Andrew? A lot. And because way I explained my Peter Parker as like very, you know, neurotic, very like, you know, hyper, overly cautious, or an overthinker, very awkward. Andrew kind of is the most similar to that description, especially in the first film. Other characters I say that inspired my version of Peter Parker, I would say, is Stan Witwicky from Transformers. It may be a curse to say his name now, but Ezra Miller's Flash in the Snyder Cut.
Which is, I would say it's fair. You know, I think the Snyder Cut version of Flash was generally accepted by people. You know,
right. And I would even say, you know, this is outside the comic book realm. Two characters in particular. If you watch Everybody Hates Chris, definitely based off of Chris from that show, as well as Chidi from A Good Place. I kind of pulled all those guys together and made my version of Peter Parker. You know,
yeah.
And and I like one thing I love. Big ups to Sam Witwicky, you know, respect. One thing I love one thing I love that I did with We Are Spidey is allowing to show my version of Peter and Miles side by side, and show how different black men could be together. Because like, you know, when people, because like I obviously I don't blame anybody. People would see me in a Spider-Man costume, they would probably assume that I'm Miles Morales, and I'm not. My character in this project is not Miles Morales, is a variant of Peter Parker. But there is a Miles Morales, so you're not missing out on that. And we put them side by side, and it shows how diverse and how different black men could be in general. It's a subtle thing. We don't like indulge in that, but it's like we could put them side by side, because like you got Miles in my series. He's a lot more, you know, in his skin, like, you know, like not in his skin, comfortable with his skin, comfortable in his own body, like very like relaxed, smooth, has swagger. I'm not even gonna bring up the joke. You already know the exact And my Peter, like I said, he's a lot more like uncomfortable, very neurotic, and very like, oh God, I didn't do this right. Oh, I'm sorry, MJ. Like that's kind of like how he operates. So having that,
we talked about the first Amazing Spider-Man when he first gets his powers, and he's kind of like, you know, looking around everywhere. He's kind of
basically. We got a lot of Sam Witwicky fans in the chat,
and there's a debate going on in here about. They're arguing about whether Spider-Man is a brawler or not.
He can be.
Yeah, I would say he can be. But I mean, with me, I prefer Spider-Man being like an acrobat, you know, being able to flip around everywhere. But I would say like maybe like Tobey's Spider-Man, generally I would say is more of a brawler than like an acrobat. So
based off of that one fight with Goblin in the first movie, Tobey's.
That fight scene was very inspiring for me with Lotus. What would you say like your fight scenes are inspired by, if you were to attribute it to anything?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Daredevil. Mortal Kombat, kind of, not because of gore, because it's not gory at all.
Yeah.
But just like how how different types of characters, you know, clash. Because there's a fight with, you know, there's no spoiler that Kraven is in We Are Spidey. Fight with Kraven and Venom, you know, and those are different types of characters. And, you know, if you put it in the Mortal Kombat context, that's like a fight between Kano and Noob Saibot. You know, I know that particular fight was very inspired by Mortal Kombat. Because like most of the fights in We Are Spidey are definitely like hand to hand, you know, grounded.
You can see that. You can see that in everything you've released so far.
Right. There's not a lot of VFX involved. I love this question. Can we hear about the stunts in We Are Spidey? That's not the question I'm talking about, but that's a good question.
Do you want to answer the other one you're talking about first, and then we'll come to this one?
Yeah, this question right here says, what message do you hope to leave your audience with We Are Spidey? Central theme message. I'd love to answer that question. You know, this is the type of question you hope to have at the back end, but I get this out the way. No problem. That know, believe in yourself, which is pretty cliche. The message of believing in yourself, believing that you're enough, uh, believing that you are good enough for the people around you. You know, doing your best is the best thing you could ever do, even if you don't always win. You know, just trying is just enough. You know, just keep going. You may not win every fight. You may lose most fights. You know, but as long as you're trying your best and you're then I feel like you're already doing the work. You know, obviously aspire to grow and evolve and change. You know, but always try your best.
Well, that's what that's what Spider-Man's all about. There's a quote in Spider-Man 2 where Peter trying to do better, and they bring it back in No Way Home, trying to do better.
Right.
I think Spider-Man, one of the main themes of Spider-Man is self-improvement, constantly trying to improve yourself, because you're going to make mistakes, you're going to screw up, you're going to lose all the time. I think Spider-Man loses more than anybody. That's the throughout the comics, he's always losing. So I think We Are Spidey really well reflects that theme of self-improvement and trying to do better, trying to do your best, even if you're going to be falling short.
Right. And another theme I would like to talk about, because it's in the title, We Are Spidey. I'm big on community. I am because we are. That's an old saying. And I feel like one of the things about Spider-Man that always struck me is we are products of people around us, and the people around us can either make or break us. Again, I'm not gonna spoil who says this. I'm not gonna spoil which scene at what point this comes in. But there's a line in We Are Spidey which states, Spidey finds the greatness in himself, and because of that, he inspires the greatness within everyone else around him. And it's like it's kind of, he puts it out there and he gets it back. He puts it out there, he gets it back. Spider-Man has inspired me. He's inspired you. Inspired everybody in this chat, I'm sure. And I would say influence, inspiration is another big theme when We Are Spidey. But I'm not gonna go too much into that. I saw a lot of other questions in the chat. It's been going so fast. I'm pretty sure we missed a lot of good questions.
Do you want to answer this one real quick? This is a stunt double. He was a stunt double in Lotus, so he was doing all the stunts in Lotus and everything. If you want to go ahead and answer that question.
Every actor who had to fight, every character who had to fight, the actor did their stunts. It's like everyone did their own stunts. We didn't have like the money for a stunt double, which is fine. But we all did our own stunts. We all hit the pavements. We all accidentally punched each other in the faces and stuff.
And we saw you doing that.
yeah. We kind of did all that, and there's a beauty to it. Hopefully, the bigger I get, I'm able to afford a stunt double, because I can't do everything.
Yeah.
But it was very fun to do my own stunts. I mean, who knows? Maybe I go down the Tom Cruise road, which you see how his career is going. He's doing great. So maybe I could get into that position where I can do my own stunt. But I know everybody in my projects won't be able to do their own stunts. So hopefully I can afford as much as possible. I see another. You see any other question? Because I see a question that I want to answer. But do you see any question?
I see one here, but I don't know if you want to go into it yet. How did you and Gavin meet? I don't know if you want to go into that yet.
Do we just say fuck it? We just do it?
I say we just do it.
Okay, Gavin, I'll let you take the floor first, and I'm gonna.
Okay, all right. So obviously we've been wanting to talk about this. So it was crazy, and the odds of this happening are so small, and it's so circumstantial. It's like it's an anomaly that it happened. But so we were supposed to be filming in Central Park midday on one of the days in New York. We weren't even supposed to be filming at nighttime. But we get ready to film. We're getting ready to go. But everybody's in the penthouse and they're kind of messing around. They're talking, having fun. I was like, okay, you know what? We'll just delay it till nighttime. We'll delay it till later. So finally, we're ready to film. And we take off. We leave the penthouse and we're going to Central Park. It's getting dark out, and so we went to Central Park and we're looking for like a tunnel or a bridge underpass. And while we were looking, we saw you guys, and somebody pointed out. I think it was Gabe. It might have been Sean, but they pointed out that you guys were also another Spider-Man film, or another Spider-Man fan film. I'm like, oh, it's sick. So we filmed at a tunnel like a little bit away from you guys. Like I don't know the distance. I don't know how to measure that. But we found another tunnel. They were also filming in one of the tunnels. Mm-hmm. So we're getting ready to film. We're getting ready to go. Getting makeup on, setting up. There were only two characters, just Warden and Tuen. And we start filming, and we're getting stuff done. We're doing different takes. Maybe 5 takes in. And during this time, I believe Gabe, Sean, Blue, and you know who else went over to visit you guys while we were filming? Sean. Oh, Eunice. They left because it was only 2 people in the scene, so they left and they go over to visit you guys and check out what you're doing. So during this time, we're filming. Tuen's kind of at the end of the tunnel. Ward's on the other end of the tunnel. Most of the crew is on the end of the tunnel. And this group of people walks by. It was 2 dudes and then 2 girls. And this complete asshole just starts, whistling and catcalling towards the girls in the Lotus crew. And before anybody even knew what was happening, Tristan, the cinematographer, had put the camera on the ground and just beeline straight towards these dudes, like speed walking over to him. And he's just absolutely pissed. And Warden pretty much like teleported next to him. Warden was right behind Tristan. And they're just yelling at each other back and forth. Tristan's pissed, Warden's pissed. And I just walked up next to Warden just to like provide more backup. I don't know what a scrawny little dude like me is going to really do. But, strength in numbers. So they were going back and forth. It's getting heated. The yelling's getting more intense. And the absolute GOAT, Jacob, comes running in. And he does like a Jurassic Park type thing where he's like, hey. And he's like kind of settling everybody down. And he's like, you guys go do your thing. We're going to go do our thing. We'll go our separate ways. And they're like, all right, well, control your boy, dude. He's like, okay, all right. We're just going to go do our own thing. And we go our separate ways. Right. So everybody's a little bit shaken up. Nothing really happened, but something could have happened for sure. So everybody's kind of shaken up a little bit. Yep. So Jacob looks over. This is what I had talked to Jacob about his perspective. He looks over and he saw Eunice, Blue, and Sean and Gabe walking over with you guys. See a big group. And Jacob walks over and he kind of tells everybody what's going on, what happened. These dudes were catcalling, doing this garbage over here. And I think that Sean or Blue and Eunice like immediately just chested up and they start walking over.
I remember that.
Yeah, they left. And so back over where we're recovering and we look over and we see the people walking back around, but this time they're with more people. And we're like, they left and got like, this is going to get bad. They brought more people over. And so we're freaking out. And so I don't know if you want to tell your perspective of what happened after that, because I remember, they came over, Tristan and Warden went back over and like, hey, and we find out they didn't bring anybody else with them. It was just them, but they were walking they just happened to be walking with other people. It was the same people over. And so if you wanted to tell from your perspective, when you guys flew in, what happened from there?
Okay. So I'm filming this big fight underneath one of the bridges between Venom and Craven. And which, by the way, that this fight scene is going to be a homage to the first fight scene you see in NYC, that you saw in NYC. But we're filming that, and then while I step back and like let the actors and the co-director do their thing, I see Gabe and Sean walk towards me. Again, I didn't recognize them at first. Oh, I didn't recognize Sean at first. I've seen his face all over social media, but I didn't recognize him because it was so dark. And then he got closer. And I'm like, oh, he actually started asking me questions. Like, oh yeah, what y'all doing? This and that. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this and that. And he comes closer. He comes like, wait a minute, you're Harry from Lotus. He was like, yeah, man. It looks like cool what you're doing. And I told him what I'm about. I told him about NYC, and he told me like, oh yeah, I've heard of Spidey NYC. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't. Sorry, I didn't know how far NYC's reach was to even be known by certain people. Because again, this year it was able to cross 1K, and of course, since you're a shout out, it has been able to kind of keep its momentum going. But yeah, him and Gabe offered to take me and my cast and crew once we're done filming over to you guys, so we can meet you guys and like take pictures. Right? And as we're on our way over, that's when Eunice and Blue come over, and they're telling us about what just went down with you and those other guys. Right. Yeah. So we start walking closer. I'm talking to Sean and Eunice and stuff like that. And by the time I get to you guys, everyone's already shaking. I'm like, oh shit, something's wrong. I remember when I approached Warden, Tune, and Mariah. Like Warden was kind of like was most open, but I noticed the girls were very shaken, so they're very like, oh, who are you? Like, and I understood. I was like, no, don't worry, we're friends. We're also doing this. We're working on a Spidey project. And then around the time where I came to you guys is when the guys came back. And like you said, you thought they came with other people. And then I see your entire crew just bomb rush towards those guys. And then me and the guys I'm with are like, okay, this is gonna get bad. So we run right in the middle. And I see the other guy getting like angry and agitated and frustrated. And he drops what he's doing. He's ready to kind of go. And then we're like, okay. You ever watch John Mulaney? That his stand up where he's like, okay. Yeah. Basically, that's basically what we were doing this entire time. Because everyone's kind of like up here. We need everything to come down here. And everyone and cool heads prevail. Those group of people kind of go off and do their thing.
Yeah.
And then we kind of continue our meetup and what have you. I'm talking to Warden. He's very nice, very sweet guy, gave me a hug and all that stuff. I did notice one thing, I mentioned this to you before. I noticed I came off a little too fanboy during that day. And then I had to remind myself, wait a minute. I've been doing this shit longer. What am I doing? I remember, I was able to chop it up with Warden, chop it up with Tune and Mariah a little bit, and we all were able to take a picture. Granted, a very overexposed picture, but a picture nonetheless. And then something funny happened, where it's like me and my friends were on our way to our friend's apartment where we're gonna stay because we were out late. We're going to our apartment as opposed to my house in the Bronx because we don't want to be walking around. After 1 a.m. Yeah. And we had a funny interaction because we heard you guys saying like, "Oh, we're going back to the penthouse." And I'm like, "Y'all got money for a penthouse? Yeah. How about that?"
That was owned by the makeup artist. Someone the makeup artist knew. I think it was her uncle. They owned the penthouse and they allowed the girls to stay there, so we wouldn't have to pay for It really helped with the money because we didn't want to have to pay for an Airbnb for the girls and then pay for Airbnbs over here and here and here. We wanted to make sure we were spending as little amount of money as possible. So that came in clutch for sure.
Okay, all right, yeah. Because me and my friend we were just wondering y'all got that much money? I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised with the budget y'all got that y'all were able to hold that down. But I'm sure that money went to other better stuff. But yeah, we were just kind of and while we were walking away from the situation, we're just like, did that really just happen?
Yeah, and you guys saved the day, because everybody was heated. You guys came in and you're like, hey, you did the kind of Jurassic Park thing where you're like, everybody chill out. But I remember Jacob, right when that happened, when everybody was kind of together over there, Jacob immediately went, he got the girls, took them to the other end of the tunnel and called 911, right? Because, something could have gone down. So he's on the phone with 911. And he's explaining to them exactly where we are. He's like, yeah, this street, we're right here, come over here and help us out. Yeah. By the time everything ended, they still had not found us. So shout out to NYPD for being the absolute worst and not
Oh,
doing
no.
our at
Oh,
all.
yeah.
You know, like we told them exactly where we were.
What's amazing about all that is that like it definitely, and this is not supposed to be like an offense or like anything, but it definitely shows like y'all ain't from around here, you know, y'all not used to this stuff, and like, you know, it kind of showed because like again, like the NYPD, we're kind of just used to them just being like, we're kind of just used to it.
We have no clue.
And also like again,
or you can go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, what's unfortunate was that like, you know, sorry, girls in New York City, women in New York City have to deal with that catcalling every day. So when you're coming from the outside, it's gonna be very shocking. So like, you know, my heart was with them because like, obviously they're not used to this, but unfortunately, girls in New York deal with this all the time. You know,
and I remember, you know, they're pretty shaken up by that, you know, because that did happen pretty often in New York. You know, people were doing that all the time.
Right.
And I remember after everything happened there in Central Park, you know, everybody was actually really shaken up. And so, you know, as the director, I had to choose. You know, everybody has to feel comfortable when they're filming.
Absolutely.
Right? Everybody has to feel, you know, supported, and everybody's got to feel together. You know, the crew's got to be, you know, united the whole time, right? So, you know, I remember talking to the girls after, and we decided that we're going to delay filming for multiple days. You know, we canceled the shoots for the next few days because there was no way I was going to make them shoot immediately after something like that happened. You know, I wanted to make sure everybody had time to recover and be able to move forward comfortably. And so, you know, there's a certain responsibility to, you know, directing to make sure everybody is supported. You know, and I think that situation really demonstrated everybody's looking out for everybody on the Lotus crew is looking out for each other all the time. You know, everybody after that, everybody was hugging each other, everybody was comforting each other, you know, everybody was together. And I think that's important for a film crew to stick together and make sure everybody's supported at all times, you know. But yeah, that was the biggest obstacle that we ran into. I mean, one of the biggest obstacles we ran into while filming, you know, something like that. Unpredictable for the most part, you know.
By the way, when do you plan on coming back to New York?
I don't know, dude. Like I wanted to come to New York Comic Con, and I was getting ready for it, but I was like, I gotta pay for the rest of Lotus. There's no way I'm gonna be able to afford going out to but I want to, man. Like hopefully within the next year or so.
For sure, we gotta link up.
Yeah, because I love New York. I loved being in New York the whole time, dude.
It's the best city ever. Like I've lived here for like 22 years, and I'm still like, you know, this is kind of like my home. Like I could live anywhere else for a short while, but like where I always come back to is New York.
Yeah, and I like a lot of people really crap on New York all the time. They also, you know, all over LA, you know, they're not fans of it. I love the city, dude. Like I remember when I first got to New York, and I left the you know, we drove all the way to New York in just this big van.
Crazy, by the way.
It was crazy. It was, Jacob here. I tried to get him to come with me to NYCC. I did buy tickets and I had to sell them.
You were at NYCC, Jacob?
No. I bought tickets and I was planning on going. I had to sell them because I ended up not going.
But did Jacob go?
Jacob was there, yeah.
Which day?
I think he was there the whole time.
You were there on Saturday? Bro, I was there Saturday. I did the whole like group Spidey picture and stuff like that. Like, I wish I knew you were there, man.
Yeah, Jacob was there the whole time, and he went to the Black Adam premiere, everything like that.
Yeah.
But
the one day I was there. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Okay.
But no, yeah, I remember the first time me and Warden had to figure out all this parking crap. There was a bunch of parking in New York's like a freaking nightmare.
That's why I took trains everywhere. I rarely had my dad drive me to a shoot. It was like twice probably. Took train everywhere, which is kind of hard because like imagine like carrying a big box like of like props in a Spider-Man costume around the city, right? You just look weird. Like one time I'll never forget. I was walking outside of an apartment, and I'm in my Spider-Man costume. I'm carrying this big box in Central Park. And I'm just walking like this, and everyone's just looking at me. I'm like, there's nothing to see here, guys. Just walking this big old box. I looked mad suspicious. I would not have been surprised if someone called the cops on me. Like, what's in the box? You know? but yeah, man.
It's a Spider-Man suit, no big deal.
Well, it wasn't a Spider-Man suit.
There was one time we were driving. Jacob was driving us back to Arkansas from New York. And this is so stupid, dude. Jacob was going a little bit over the speed limit, and we got pulled over.
Oh.
And the cop comes up to us, like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And we're like, "All right, sorry, but check this out." And we get the box with the Lotus suit, and we showed him. We're like, "Hey, check it out." He's like, "Oh, whoa." He's like feeling the suit. He's like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. What are you guys up to?" I'm like, "Oh, we're just making a Spider-Man movie, blah, blah." And yeah, Jacob's all pissed off. But we had like a full conversation with the officer about like, "Oh, we're making a Spider-Man movie." We were hoping he'd be like, "Okay, we won't give you a ticket," but he gave Jacob the ticket anyway.
Damn, like they're ticket happy in New York. So
yeah.
I would like to kind of point out is like, I feel like if you're a Spider-Man project filming in New York, you're kind of cheating. It's so easy for you. It's like you have just everything there. Because I feel for people who's filming outside New York, because it's like we kind of just have this laid out for us. This big cities basically are like backline.
Yeah, and it creates such an easy set to. I mean, it's like a set to work with. But I remember like we walked into Times Square and everybody was like looking at us because we have all this camera equipment, and we're there. Sean had like I don't know if you've seen like the drug makeup where his eyes are dark. Yeah, dude, he just walks in and he like looks really like crazy, and everybody's staring at him. We're following him around with the camera,
right?
And people are like, "Wow," they're like checking it out, and people were actually like moving out of the way for us without us even asking them. Like Tristan would follow Sean, and people would be like, "All right," and they were like getting out of the way. Right. But yeah, no, I loved it, dude, and it's super like you just walk into wherever you want and just go ahead and film until people tell you to stop,
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's the Central Park incident. Yeah. I feel like there's been so many great questions.
I know. I'm gonna scroll through here and let's see.
I've been seeing a lot of. I see this one comment by. Hold on. My scroller sucks. My boy Isaiah, he asked a question like, "What other Spidey projects are you looking forward to?" Which I kind of promised him that I would shout everybody out. So Isaiah's project is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm really looking forward to that. I play Electro in that one.
Really?
Yeah, his name is Isaiah Manderson, and a lot of people know his content. But he's coming out with a project called Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I have cameo as Electro. He's also from New York. Another one I'm looking forward to is my friend Matthew. He's working on this project called Spider-Man Holiday Bash. I'm sure most of you may have heard of it. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. He's helped me out with my project. He has a little cameo in We Are Spidey as well. Another project I'm looking forward to is my friend, my boy, pal Brandon. He's working on this project called Spider-Man New Beat. You guys can look it up on Instagram. And my friend Miles, he goes by Mighty Miles on Instagram.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, he's working on a project now called Hope. It was previously called Brief of Responsibility. It's now called Hope. So, I would definitely check him out. And they're like, the usual suspects like Jeremy from Every Hour, Brandon Mello from Monsters of Manhattan. Of course, the Six Side Studios newest project. Who else?
Also, I mean, Joey Lever. Joey
Lever. Yeah. And Nero's Spider-Man Ordinary. Nero actually did like a swing sequence for my project, which, by the way, I wanted to take this time to shout out my VFX artist Ryan Blendon Artwork. He is the man, and he's worked with me, for a good 2 years now, and he's held it down. I've seen him grow throughout this entire process and project. His VFX just gets better and better and better. He's been my guy. He's been my supervisor for VFX. So I wanted to shout him out. He's been great and consistent. And he's young too. So it's like when he I love this. I love to continue to work with him to see him grow and evolve and change. And Nero's the one who suggested me to him, so I thank Nero for that.
Dude, Nero's like the everyman. Like he's everywhere.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he's everywhere.
you go to a Spider-Man fan film and it's like Nero's attached to it and he's doing stuff for it. You go to the Spider-Man fan film, Nero's attached to it. Like I don't know how he does it, but he's able to multitask so many different projects
He's
at
giving
once.
money.
Yeah,
They're giving him bread. Like the bread will do enough. He's like, how much you paying me? I got you.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
he worked super quickly. You know, like when he was part of Lotus, like he got that model done within like a month and a half or something like that. I was like, damn.
Right.
But yeah, Nero's awesome. There's a question here I thought was pretty interesting. How different were what you originally envisioned the film being like, and how it eventually turned out?
What's funny is that, like, generally speaking, the way the project was envisioned is basically how it is now, but now it's like I'm just adding on to over time. I just added on to that initial vision.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an evolved version of what I already had in mind. It's not so drastically different. You know, the characters that were meant to be there from the jump are, the characters that are there now. Like, I always intended on using Tony Stark. I've always intended on using Craven. I've always intended on using Venom. I've always intended on using, again, 3 Spider-Man, 2 MJs, the story, it was funny because with NYC, that had to go through so many different changes because circumstances always change, with NYC. Because that was my first my first go around with it, and so I had to do a lot of shifting and changing because people would come and people would go, and so. But we were able to make it work, and even though there's a lot in NYC that I wish I'd done better, it's very amateurish. I still have so much love for NYC, But yeah, as far as We Are Spidey goes, the general concept we had is pretty much still there. The what you have now is just what we had and what we've added on to it. See, that answers your question.
That's a good one. I found another one here. Is filmmaking or acting a passion of yours that you wish to pursue? I don't know if he's asking if you prefer one or the other, or if he's asking, either way, however you want to interpret that.
My question is yes. It's all my passion.
Yeah.
Filmmaking, acting, making, music, writing, producing, running a studio. It's all my passion. Making comics is my passion. I also want to work on that eventually. I do want to make tie-in comics to We Are Spidey. But yeah, all of it's my passion equally. Because I feel like I look at filmmaking as an umbrella term. It could be director, writer, actor. Filmmaker is kind of like the umbrella term.
Yeah, and I'd even expand it to an artist in general, whether that be painting or making music or directing or acting. You are an artist if you do any of that,
Whatever I prioritize on the day is what I'm gonna do. If I prioritize going to the studio making music, that's what I'm gonna do. If I prioritize writing a script, that's what I'm gonna do. If I prioritize getting a good working on my camera, that's what I'm gonna do. If I prioritize looking up gigs on backstage, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, and that I think that's something that we have to, as kind of the creators of our projects, we kind of have to have multiple different talents, because we don't have hundreds of people working for us and everybody's got a different role. We kind of have to take on producer, director, editor, writer. It's there's a lot more to balance when you're doing a nonprofit independent project as opposed to the people in Hollywood who there's one director, there's one editor, there's producers who are all this stuff. People have different roles. You mentioned that you're making music for We Are Spidey.
Yes, I am making a soundtrack for We Are Spidey. I had to go through a little bit of a restructuring, because of circumstances. But I hope that whoever was in the initial vision of the soundtrack could still be in this new version of the soundtrack. Some people, again, there was a restructuring of how the soundtrack was going to happen. But yes, there will still be a soundtrack for We Are Spidey. And my main genre of music is very like rap and melodic rap, and like that type of lane, like where you get like Kid Cudi, Kanye, Drake, those type of guys are huge influences on me. But like occasionally I'll definitely go into like the rap, and I want to put all that into this soundtrack, and y'all just gonna have to see it when it comes out. I know for sure within the next 2 months I do plan on releasing at least one track from the soundtrack, and it's called Amazing Fantasy. So keep an eye out for that. And I feel like those who follow me kind of already got a snippet of that song. Once we're done with this live, I'm actually gonna send it to you guys and see what you think about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. People are asking about where I got my bed sheets from.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm like, yo.
I gotta be honest with you guys. I have no idea where they came from. I've had them since I was like 12 or 13. My stepmom got them for me, and I have no clue where they came from. I'm so sorry to disappoint, but I do not know where to find them. So that will answer like half the chat here. I like this is all new nerds here. I think they're super cool. They did a lot of Lotus stuff last year. But I like the question they have here.
Okay, how do you guys find the balance between keeping faithful to the source material and also putting your own movies in your respective projects? I'm very confident in my knowledge of Spider-Man to the point where it's like I can put the pen to paper and just let the writing flow. It's kind of like I'm so confident in my knowledge and my understanding of the character, to where it's like I just let the writing flow, and I try to like. I don't really think about being faithful, or I don't think about being like, oh, let's be close to the source material. I just kind of let the writing flow, let do the work, because I'm very confident in my knowledge of each character in the universe.
That's how it should be. It shouldn't be forced. Like you shouldn't be thinking how can I appeal to people in terms of staying faithful to source material? It should be, you have your own, you're impacted by Spider-Man your own way, and you're going to project that into your own project, right? Like I'm impacted by 70s Spider-Man, 80s Spider-Man, classic Spider-Man. So that's going to find its way into my project unconsciously,
Right.
And for you, whatever version of Spider-Man you're impacted by, that's going to find its voice in your project,
Right. Okay. I saw another question from Century. What's his name? Century Films. What was his name? That I've liked, but like I've been occupied with these questions.
Which one is it?
The guy's name is like he asked the previous question, or the question before that. I don't know.
Oh, is it? This
Yeah,
one right
Golden Century Films. That wasn't the question he asked, but I'll answer this question right for now. Advice for other creators regarding fan films and filmmaking. Look, work with what you got. Don't worry about being the best right now. If making films is your passion, just do what you can with what you got. Your goal right now is not to be the best filmmaker ever. Your goal is to sharpen your sword.
Yeah.
Your goal now is to work on your skills, sharpen your skills each time you do it. Repetition is key. You gotta keep doing it. So even if you make your first project fan film or just straight up film in general, like regardless of how bad it may come out at the end, you want to get that practice in. You may not even be able to afford film school. That experience you have could be your film school, right? I know Spidey NYC and We Are Spidey has been my film school. I mean, I went to acting school, and we touched on certain things as far as film is concerned. But my education as far as making film has come from NYC and We Are Spidey. So you just gotta do it. Don't worry about being. I feel like perfectionism can be dangerous to artists because you want to grow, and if you're held back because something is not perfect, then I don't think you can grow. You put it out, let the positives come in, let the negative comments come in, and then take it apply it to the next. Same thing. Let the positive and the negative come in. Take it, bring it to the next thing. It's a growing process. You don't want to be stagnant because you're so focused on what you did wrong in this one part, this one portion of the edit that probably no one's gonna notice. You know? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I share the same thing. I mean, I don't want to take too much time because I'm pretty much I have the same exact point as you. Pick up a camera and go do something with it.
right.
Use whatever resources you have. I didn't expect to get a lot of funding for Lotus. My initial announcement video was like, if we get $100, we're gonna go with that. If we get 5,000, we're gonna go with that. It's gonna be whatever we get, we're gonna use it. Use every resource you have. Pick up the camera and go do it. Don't worry about trying to get famous or trying to get a platform or anything like that. Just make what you want to make. But you pretty much put it perfectly. There's not much more for me to add here.
This guy also had another question that I wanted to answer. I mean, it probably got lost in the sauce, but like I really want to answer this question because I was reading. I was like, "Ooh, I really want to answer that." If you could retype it, that'd be great. Golden Century Films, that'd be great. But did you not notice any other question while the chat was going?
I'm looking through it right now. Let's see. Someone is talking about. I mean, it's kind of interesting. How would you envision a rated R Spider-Man film? Even though I feel as though, well, I personally think I'm not on board with rated R Spider-Man. I think I don't know how you feel about it, but
I'm saying.
yeah, I feel like rated Spider-Man is not a character that fits into the rated R category. That's the Punisher, that's Daredevil, that's other character. I would even say like Moon Knight would fit into rated R, but he's PG-13 generally. He's supposed to appeal to kids, high school, adults. He's supposed to apply to everybody.
Right.
So.
Right. Again, if you want to make a rated R Spider-Man fan project, by all means.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be very good. If you want to see that, go make it. But I'm with Gavin. I don't really see that's necessary for a Spider-Man story, unless you're making like a Kane fan film, which he's a lot more of a much more
that as well. It depends on which version of Spider-Man you're talking about.
Exactly. If you want to do like what I did with NYC, make a reimagining where it's a lot more like The Boys or something like that, by all means, I'm sure it'd be great. But for me, making Spider-Man rated R is like making Teen Titans rated R, which they're doing right now with this new show. We've got the new show. It's been out for a minute, but it's like this show, which again, I have a hard time getting.
And at the end of the day, again, there is no right version of Spider-Man like we mentioned, but we can have our own.
That's a perfect character to make rated R.
Spider-Man Noir, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, and I could definitely, that would definitely work. When it comes to Peter Parker, I have a very headstrong interpretation of I just couldn't see him in rated R. That doesn't mean it couldn't work, and that doesn't mean another interpretation would be less valid. But when it comes to me and you, that I don't think it works.
Right. No. Yeah. Next question.
I saw this one, which was really good. Hardest artistic choice you made in the making of the film at any stage in production.
You answer that first. I need to think.
It's a tough. I wasn't even prepared for it. I just clicked on it. But the hardest artistic choice you made in making the film. I think honestly going for including action in the movie. Because the original approach to Lotus was not going to include any action at all. It was going to remain a drama the whole time. And I've never shot. Before Lotus, the last time I shot any action at all, I was like 12 years old on my iPhone in a short film I made with my friends called The Stalker. And so I was really inexperienced with fight scenes, but I was like, you know what, we're going to go for it. That's what a lot of Lotus was. But,
right.
It was like, we're going to go for it. We're just going to go ahead and make a feature film, even though none of us have ever done that before. So yeah, I think choosing to go ahead with fight scenes, having no experience on that at all, that was the most difficult choice, and the most risky for me. Yeah.
All right. So as you were talking, my answer came about. I told you about this like 2 nights ago, and it's not a spoiler to say he's in it. Iron Man was the hardest artistic choice in We Are Spidey. Doing Iron Man was definitely, as far as getting the costume down, like doing the scene, and like dealing with the getting the actor on the on in get the actor in the costume and doing the scene because like my actor for Iron Man, Sean, also named Sean Hirsch. We went to school together. He, he's from Maryland. He would come up to New York from Maryland every so often to do filming, and so a lot of times his schedule wouldn't fully line up with ours. And so we would have to get him wherever we can, get almost everything of his when he was here, and like kind of wait till the next time he was available. So it wasn't even sure we'd be even able to get him in the suit. But thankfully, the stars aligned. We got him in the suit, and we kind of just went ham. But yeah, Iron Man was the hardest thing to implement.
And that's a tough thing to do with, a lower budget, because Iron Man is like, it's very difficult to do when you have a lower budget, because it's very, often VFX focused. It's difficult to really get right with a lower budget. Like I wouldn't even want to approach Iron Man. So I would definitely, from everything that you've told me about We Are Spidey, I would say it's definitely the most ambitious thing you did.
Right, and it's like we kind of ran into the story where like Iron Man in this world isn't as polished of a character, and so the suit he has in We Are Spidey is a lot more like his very first armor, like Mark One. It's not as like tight. It's very like bulky and stuff like that. And when you see it, it definitely has those qualities, and so that helped us as far as like budget constraints, as far as like practicality, so like you're gonna Iron Man's in We Are Spidey, and yeah, that's what we're pulling from as far as the suit's inspiration, the Mark One. Yeah.
This was a good point. I didn't really consider that Maximum Carnage could be rated R, and I definitely agree to an extent. But I also don't think I really don't think you need gore and to do Carnage correctly, or Venom. I don't know if the character require. I know he's a serial killer and he's like brutal. He's like, it's crazy, and I definitely think rated R would be better. But I also think Carnage can work in PG-13. So I don't know. I mean, there are different takes where I could see rated R maybe working,
Yeah.
But again, the preference is.
Yeah. See, for me, like Maximum Carnage is more of a Carnage story, less of a Spider-Man story. So you can make it rated R, but I feel like that story it should be told from Carnage's perspective.
Yeah.
Now I would also point out that one of my biggest issues with the second Venom movie. I'm not a fan. The biggest issue with the second Venom movie is that Carnage was very watered down. So he may not have to hit that rated R stamp, but he's got to come damn close.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Heath Ledger's Joker, was a lot more of a menace than Carnage in Let There Be Carnage. I felt a lot more afraid of Heath Ledger's Joker than
he did feel more goofy kind of in Venom 2.
Right.
Venom 2 overall felt kind of goofy, and I know that Venom comics are kind of like that some a good amount of the time, but I don't know. I wasn't really feeling it that much.
Right.
But
I like this question. What time period of Spider-Man comics are implemented in your guys' film the most? Mine is very modern day, but the biggest inspiration for my series has been like Ultimate Comics. Because NYC is an alternate universe, and it's not while it's not like it's not the Ultimate Universe. I've taken a lot of cues from the Ultimate Universe. For example, our version of Craven is very inspired by the ultimate version of Craven. And Venom in some ways is very inspired by the ultimate version of Venom. I would say Peter, my Peter and my MJ's interactions is pulled very much from the ultimate Peter and MJ interaction. Yeah, and what else? I think that's pretty much it for me. Like that's pretty much what I pulled from.
Yeah, and mine is like the exact opposite. Mine is very 60s, 70s, 80s Spider-Man. I still pulled from a little bit of the 90s versions, like the J.M. DeMatteis, the way he writes Spider-Man. I certainly pulled from that. But I'm a huge, like I always say, like Spider-Man from the older Spider-Man, even if the dialogue is kind of corny and cheesy sometimes,
Yeah.
that like the aesthetic of those comics and just the general atmosphere of them, that's what I kind of grew up on. I remember one of the first Spider-Man comics I read was Night Before He Died. I remember when I was like 7 or 8, I had to watch a YouTube video of the panels and I have to pause and read it. But that and then the art style and just the whole atmosphere of them, that's where I drew from it. It wasn't a lot of modern Spider-Man stuff. But we took very, very different approaches, and I think that's interesting.
Right. I should also point out that the classic version of Peter Parker, played by my friend Jacob Covert, who I found on Backstage, his character and his universe is definitely based off of the John Romita era. And definitely based on the John Romita era and like the 90s cartoon Spider-Man, because like Jacob, he has much more of like a buff physique, and if anything really changed from the initial idea was the idea that this classic Peter Parker would be a lot more toned and a lot more muscular, because there's actually my friend Will was actually supposed to play Peter Parker in We Are Spidey, but he couldn't do it, so then I got Jacob. And Will's a lot more lanky, a lot more skinny. And so if anything changed, it was that the characterization of the classic Peter Parker. And I feel like having a Peter Parker that's a lot more bulky, a lot more like muscular, it definitely helps contrast with my Peter Parker, which is a lot more scrawny. But yeah, just thought I'd point that out. Isaiah, favorite Spider-Man fan film that has come out, new or old? You do that first. You go first again.
Yeah. My favorite Spider-Man fan film isn't even like a Spider-Man fan film. It's an Eddie Brock fan film. It's called Truth. Yeah, I love that film. And I mentioned on my old Instagram that I like when you have a storyline taking place kind of in the midst of a bigger comic storyline, right? Like you're telling your story while other comic book canon storylines are happening. Truth in Journalism takes place between Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's around the 300 when Venom first appeared.
Right.
But it's kind of telling its own story, filling in the gaps from 300 to I think 301 or 302. But it doesn't directly adapt those comics. It just assumes that the audience is aware of that history and aware of that world. And I like how stylistic it is. It's shot like a documentary the whole time. It's black and white,
Right.
and it's a version of Eddie Brock that I don't think has ever been done before by any of the studios. Even when it comes to like the TV shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man animated series, and then the Raimi movies and Tom Hardy. None of them captured, in my opinion, Eddie Brock as well as this fan film did. And it's so. Oh, I love it. It's like that is Eddie Brock to me. Yeah, I put that up there.
Yeah. I don't really have a favorite myself. I just know the ones that influenced me as time goes on. I remember like one of the first fan films I watched, and I'm not sure this is like a long time ago. This is like going into like YouTube 2010 or 2009, like Doppelganger. The Symbiote Saga. I'm not sure if anyone here remembers that, but it was released in parts, and it was the story of Peter and Venom, and old Eddie Brock, and they touched on his cancer. They touched on what drew him to Venom. They touched on like how Peter was affected. Like it was definitely a retelling of the symbiote saga. And again, it was very like old. Uh, I remember that was like one of the first ones I've watched, and it really kind of stuck with me. And then over time, as I remember, Doppelganger. Um, and then over time, there was obviously Peter's Web. It was Peter's Web, which was definitely an influence on me. And there was the Marvel Knights Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
Marvel. There's Marvel.
Yeah.
And the projects that the Six Side Studio guys have been making. My favorite one has to be like what was the one with Craven? What was it called again?
I remember I watched all of their stuff when I was younger, but I don't remember.
It was the one with Craven and Commencement. I remember the Commencement was also a favorite of mine, but the other one, it was with Craven. It's slipping my mind. If someone in the chat could kind of tell me what it was, but that was also that I loved. And also the fan film Miles.
Oh yeah,
that was great.
Yeah,
that was great. Fantastic. Damn, I feel like I'm slipping on a lot.
I would say, I would admit maybe Joey Lever's first or his Spider-Man.
I
remember when I was like 10 years old. I remember when his first Spider-Man film came out, Lost Cause. I remember making popcorn, going in my room, getting it ready on the TV, and it was like premiere time. And I remember watching, and I was like, it inspired me because it was like, I'm able to also do this, And he was kind of paving the way for fan films to be feature length, and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, I could do something like this. And I remember like throughout middle school, I remember making recreations of his trailers as a kid, and I would even do the British voice, and I try to mimic like his speech patterns and everything.
Right.
But that was actually really inspiring for me.
Eclipse was also really good too.
Which one? Oh, Eclipse. I remember that. Yeah,
that was great. That was great.
Yeah. We'll go for about maybe 10 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
This guy said, what Spider-Man artists influenced cinematography and aesthetic of your guys' project?
You go first.
Well, for me, in terms of artists, obviously John Romita Sr. was massive, and you can see that in the suit design of Spider-Man. Alex Ross, of course, was an inspiration for the aesthetic. It was kind of it showed me what Green Goblin could look like adapted, in a realistic way, taking the original design and bringing it into live action. Even though I talked about it is a little bit of a goofy design, but for me, something I've always said with the Green Goblin design is like Norman Osborn, when he takes the Goblin formula, one thing it does to that J.M. DeMatteis explored in Child Within was that it kind of reverts you to the habits of a child.
Right.
So for me, the Green Goblin is a manifestation of Norman Osborn's childhood fear. And, children fear kind of weird things. I remember I was scared of like E.T. and like Where the Wild Things Are, stuff like that, like completely weird stuff like that. So the Green Goblin looking kind of goofy and weird is something that Norman Osborn would have been afraid of as a child. And that's how he strikes fear into people. Complete tangent, has nothing to do with the question, but yeah. Alex Ross showed me what that would look like. So John Romita Sr., Alex Ross, Jill Kane, all the originals.
Yeah. For me, I would say Ditko, obviously. Mark Bagley. Humberto Ramos. Who else? I'm trying to think. Sarah Pacelli. Those four in particular, as far as artists, like Spider-Man artists, have influenced my my project in many ways. As far as what has influenced the cinematography and the aesthetic, again, each different world in We Are Spidey has its own like type of inspiration. Like I mentioned before, the Spidey NYC universe is very based on Daredevil. Not based on Daredevil, but it's inspired by Daredevil and Luke Cage, the Netflix shows. The Earth Prime continuity is definitely inspired by Raimi. So I like having more bright colors, colorful and stuff like that. I wanted to show that contrast because like I'm continuity is comic continuity, so I want to make it pop like a comic book. And yeah, that's to answer the question.
Yeah. There's one here. I saw this asked a couple times. I'll answer real quick. I'm also doing a project this coming month. Can you tell me tips for writing scripts? And what I always say, and I think I said this on the previous live stream, is that you want a central message and idea, and you want all of your characters to tie into that central message, right? That's what Spider-Man 2 does. Is it has a common theme of that it conveys, and every character is kind of tied into it, and they all show a different perspective, whether it be Doc Ock or Mary Jane or Peter. And so that underlying subtext of everything connecting together is what allows the movie to be consistent. In Lotus, Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, and Peter Parker, they're different sides of the same idea of overcoming loss and overcoming tragedy and moving forward from there. So I think as long as you have that message, whatever you want, whatever idea you want to convey to the world, and you offer different perspectives through the characters, then you're going to have a movie that's entertaining to watch, and the audience will feel drawn to it. But I don't know if you wanted to kind of add on your own advice.
I got it. Can you save Jacob's question right here, because I do want to answer that.
Yeah, let me see it. Okay.
Throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. When you're writing, throw every little stupid idea you have. Don't worry about whether you can film it or not. Just throw everything out there, and then when you're done, adjust it to fit your budget. That's my piece of advice.
That's perfect. I completely agree with that. Any idea you have, just write it down. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got Jacob's question here.
Yeah, I'm happy you saved it, man. I'm so mad at myself for not putting it. Ninja Turtles has been a huge inspiration on the concept of NYC in general, Spidey NYC in general. Like mainly the first movie. Well, the very first Ninja Turtles movie was a huge inspiration on Spidey NYC. How gritty and like how the aesthetic is, and even if We Are Spidey, there's a lot of Ninja Turtles influence. Obviously, with the Spider-Man, a lot of them share characteristics with the Ninja Turtles. Like the main Peter Parker, classic Peter Parker, takes from Leonardo. Miles takes from Michelangelo, and my character takes from Donatello. I would say my version of MJ is very inspired by April O'Neil. Very inspired by April O'Neil. And there's also a lot of other things I want to get into, where villains and like characters and like looks and something have been like inspired by Ninja Turtles, and the Ninja Turtles touches on the multiverse a lot, so we took a lot inspiration from Turtles Forever and a lot of the other crossovers of Ninja Turtles, Turtle Generations and stuff like that, but then mainly Turtles Forever. This guy said my name sounds like a food. Screw you, buddy. But yeah, just to answer your question, Jacob, yeah, there's a huge inspiration in Ninja Turtles on Spidey NYC in both projects.
It's been a while since I've watched Ninja Turtles, dude. Like and I don't know any of the lore or anything like that. I never really got far into it.
They released a movie this year, animated, and it's great. It's called Rise. It's based on the Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. It's fantastic. Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying, I got to check out. I feel like I should get into Ninja Turtles, and also we were talking about Transformers the other day. I never got to get into Transformers growing up, so that'll be another thing that I want to get into. But yeah, I mean, we're getting to the hour 20 mark. Normally, that's kind of where I end the streams off. But I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, and giving a listen to everything that Xavier was, doing for Spidey NYC, and also We Are Spidey and everything like that. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do this again. I'm going to do a lot more of these creator Q&As and bring people on, and hopefully we can do another one, later down the line when We Are Spidey is closer to releasing and everything.
Yeah, I would definitely plan on coming back again. I'd like to say to Gavin again, I'm so happy to see you bouncing back, man. After the controversy and and stuff like that, I'm very sure there's been people that have been asking me how I feel about it. Look, the mistake was made, accountability was had, we move on. That's how I feel, at least. If you have every right to feel how you feel, but for me, accountability has been had. We were able to move on with our lives, and I'm only talking to the person that I'm here with right now. And he's given me a great opportunity, giving me exposure, and I appreciate him for that. So again, thank you so much. And I'm happy that you're growing, you're evolving your content and stuff like that. And you're giving people like me, opportunity to kind of show everyone what I got.
Yeah. And hopefully people can see that. I'm excited that more people are coming over to your project, and you're getting a lot of traction and everything, and it's really, really exciting to see. So but yeah, so thank you for coming on. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the stream and everything, and we'll be doing more of these. I'll be doing more announcements, and that's all I got. So all right, thank you guys.
All right.